So Taylor, thank you so much for joining SheLeads today. I am so excited to have you on the show, so thanks for coming.
Yeah, super excited.
Yeah, of course. So Taylor, you founded Eq Wellness, where you teach equine facilitated wellness. And from my understanding, you teach Western horseback riding, not for the performative and achievement competitive side, but rather the mental well-being and just the aspect of being in nature and having a strong mental health. So we're going to talk about that more. But even more so, you've also taught therapeutic riding, where you've helped veterans who are suffering from PTSD and children with disabilities, and you've seen how horses and just riding those horses can really bring this therapy to them. And even before this, you're also a competitive and collegiate rider. You rode for University of South Carolina. And right now, you're also an assistant coach for the Stanford equestrian team. So it's so great to have that Stanford connection as well, but I just love having you here. And especially for me, I don't know much about horses and the equestrian industry, I guess, so I'm excited to have you here.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, you going to Stanford, you're right in the epicenter. Yeah. Woodside, California, which is just one exit away from you. There's more horses than people.
Yeah. See, I didn't even know that, so that's great. So, okay, before we even get into what you're doing now, tell me about you and where did your passion for horses come from?
Awesome. So my family, I come from a big family of skiers. Okay. So we had a house out in Utah, in Deer Valley, Utah, and we would go every winter to ski, but we had the house all year, so we would go in the summer too. When I was 5, we started going in the summer, and I went on my first trail ride with my dad, and I got off my horse, and I was 5 years old, and looked at him and said, "Dad, I'd like you to buy me a horse." And he said, "No." Okay. And then I made him take me back every single day of that vacation, and I rode for 2 weeks straight. And by the end, he was like, "Okay, if you're really passionate about this and you're really serious that this is what you want to do, I'll make you a deal." And he said if I took a lesson once a week for a whole year when we got back home, he would buy me a horse. And that was 25 years ago.
Oh my goodness. So where's home other than Utah?
Home is Pennsylvania.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so that's where I'm from. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. So then you just kept that up and you just rode for 25 years and then college, you decided to ride in college?
Yeah, basically. So I showed competitively on what's called the American Quarter Horse Association. Okay. It's a specific breed of horse. And I showed they have a really competitive Western performance division that I competed in. I was one of those athlete kids that didn't even go to high school. I did high school on the internet. Yeah. So I'm great at quarantine.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So yeah, I just showed competitively, and I was really lucky and really successful, and my parents were super supportive, and I had great coaches, and it was an amazing and odd experience. Yeah. And then I was recruited to ride for the University of South Carolina. So I was there for 5 years. And while I was there, I also studied photography and art, which was super fun. Mm-hmm. And from there, I ended up going to grad school in Boston, and I sort of stepped away from the horses for a little bit. I just got really wrapped up in my art, which was awesome too. But while I was in undergrad, I had a really rough freshman year. So my freshman year started with one of my best friends committing suicide, someone that I had shown horses with my whole life and knew very closely and just had no clue about this part of his life. And then after that, my horse that I had brought to college with me got very sick and passed away suddenly. And my dog died. Oh my God. I always joke and say it sounds like a very sad country song.
Yeah.
And then after that, my dad unexpectedly died in an accident. So kind of after 6 months of just like straight up nothing good happening, yeah. I stepped away from horses in a really like emotional way. I kind of just did it as like, I'm here in college, I'm supposed to do this, I love my team, but this is sort of silly. Mm-hmm. Nothing really seemed that interesting to me anymore. It just didn't seem to have the same magic it once did. Mm-hmm. And slowly, I found my way back because of a little boy that I met who happens to have Down syndrome. I was babysitting him, and he lived on a small farm, and my horse had actually moved to his farm because it was less expensive. And after my dad died, that was a thing that I had to start worrying about. And it was just, he was the first person that wasn't, oh my God, are you okay? Your life's so hard. Are you all right? Right. He was the first person to just look at me like I was normal and to be like, life is still fun. We can still use sidewalk chalk on the driveway, and we can still blow bubbles. And then we started riding together, and I started hanging out with him and all his siblings and teaching all of them, and just like being outside in nature with all these animals. And because of him and because of my photography background, I started working for a nonprofit doing their media. It's a nonprofit that provides experiences for young adults with Down syndrome. And I hosted what we called an adventure with them. And I brought 12 people with young adults with Down syndrome and one of their peers to the barn for a weekend-long camping trip. And it was life-changing. One of the boys, he was 21 at the time. He had never been able to put together a full sentence. So he has Down syndrome and autism. And he could say singular words like yes, no, mom, dad, things like that. Mm-hmm. But he started making these full sentences because he was so passionate about the horses. He wanted them to come near him, and he wanted to touch them, so he would call their names. And then he would ask them, like there was a horse there named Flash. He would say, come here, Flash, which is huge for, a person that has never been able to do something like that. Yeah. So long story short, I just saw this. Honestly, what I saw myself, right? I saw wow, these horses have been there for me through everything. This, I'm sure with soccer, this sport has been there for me. It's something I could always fall back on, whether it's my team or my animals or being out in nature, the feel you get when you're running or riding or hiking or kicking a ball. It's all really similar, but I found it really deeply here.
Wow, that's such an incredible story. I can almost cry when you're talking about the kids with Down syndrome and how they had that effect. So for me, I feel like you almost saw this whole new, power of horses when you saw them interact with. So who was that first boy? What was his name? The one with Down syndrome? Jack. So when you first saw Jack with the horse, you saw, wow, it almost took away from the competitive aspect and the show horsing and everything, which is crazy.
No, that's exactly, for my whole life, and I don't want to knock horse showing at all. I learned so many valuable lessons from it. Yeah. That you have to wake up early to do hard things, right. That you have to stay in shape, that you have to be healthy, that you have to put your horse's needs before your own. Sometimes you're all excited to go horse show and your horse pulls a muscle, and guess what? You're not horse showing today, right? Yeah. You learn a ton of valuable things, right. But you can also really get caught up in winning, right? Yeah. I'm sure soccer is the same, right? Sure. You'll do anything to beat that other team. You'll do anything to rise to the top, and sometimes that's not healthy. And what I learned from Jack and from other kids and young adults I was meeting like him was what really mattered. And what it took me back to were those days in Utah on the mountains with my dad. Yeah. When nothing else mattered except for just being together and being in nature and seeing the sights and sounds and that feel I got when I was on a horse that I honestly hadn't felt in a long time.
Yeah. So what's the timeline like when you did meet Jack and you discovered this new side almost?
Yeah, so I met Jack while I was in college, but I didn't really start piecing this all together until grad school. I actually I was making a project about Jack. I did a lot of work with Jack.
Yeah.
I was doing a photography project about him, and my professors really encouraged me to dig deeper. They were like, you take a lot of good pictures of this kid, but why? Right. What's underneath of it? And when I did a lot of digging, I realized what was underneath of it was this whole idea of this tie between me and the horses and my dad, and being able to provide that same feeling for other people. Yeah. So I dug a little deeper, and I ended up making a video project that was about the horses and my dad and Jack and myself. And that's sort of where it all started. And then I pursued, because of my grad school thesis, I gave up photography and went back into horses pretty much full time. I moved again and started pursuing my PATH certification, which is therapeutic riding. And that led me to California, because it's normal to move across the country, right, to teach horseback riding. And then, I was here for a while before everything really started unfolding. Right away, I started working for a therapeutic riding barn, which was awesome. And then I was introduced to the Stanford Red Barn because of a friend that had been on the team a long time ago. And then it took me a while to sort of make this connection that it doesn't have to just be horse showing or therapy, right? There was something in between that I could create that was all mine.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's amazing. So did you ever have these doubts, or almost when you were navigating your career, did you think, I want to be in horses my whole life and that's sustainable? Or were you like, okay, I guess I have to give this up at one point and do something else? Yeah, how did you navigate that?
100%. I remember a long line of programming that I was told by my horse trainers. Something that they always used to say was that you can't feed your kids off a belt buckle. When you win horse shows, you get belt buckles.
Okay.
And I that was really like stuck in me that like, I can't do this for a living. And I guess what changed was being a horse trainer for my living was not the right path. I'm not interested in that life. I think it's amazing the people who are, but my life is a little bit different. And I guess and like you said, like listening to all these amazing entrepreneurs, I'm a huge podcast fan as well. And I'm always listening to those, Jenna Kutcher and Glennon Doyle and all of those people who are like sending out this incredible content about like, you can pick up a camera and make it your life. You can pick up a pen and paper and make it your life. And I just listened to enough of those people and saw enough of those people that I was like, what's different about a horse? I just had to find a way to make it my own. So it wasn't just what people expect it to be, where it's horse training for horse showing.
Yeah. So at that process, when you realize, okay, at the end of the day, I want my passion to be my career, were people telling, like, was your mom telling you, no, it's not going to work out? Were there anyone doubting you, or were you just kind of, I'm doing it?
Honestly, I'm super, super lucky, and I have really supportive family and friends. Something that I did that was really, looking back, smart was I built my community before I built my business. So when I jumped ship and said, this is actually what I'm going to do, a lot of people lined up behind me and said, okay, we got you, which has been, that's how I made it work. Honestly, if I would have just been slaving away in my office, not building a community, this would have never worked. I had to have that tribe behind me, saying, we're with you no matter how hard this is. And like right now is a perfect example, right? Like, so I don't know exactly when this gets released, but we're still in lockdown for coronavirus. And so many of my clients have just been, still paying their bills, even though they aren't getting billed. Saying, we got you. We want you to exist when we come out of this. Here you go. We know you can't do this without us. So that would be my biggest advice to anyone, is to find your people. And it's okay if not everyone is your people, but find your people that will stick with you no matter what. I have a really good balance with my family where my family, including my mom, my siblings, my close friends, my boyfriend, his family, where they are super supportive, but they're also very realistic. So I do have a lot of people, saying, hold on, wait a second, what about this? But then what's important about that is they give their feedback when I ask for it. And when I say, actually, I'm going to just do this my way, they say, okay, I got you. And they're supportive as well. Yeah.
I love that piece of advice. I think that's important for anyone to hear, almost instead of just starting it by yourself and then thinking that they'll follow. It's almost like, no, let's build a base of people who you trust, who support you, and then you can get it started. I think that's great.
Yeah, my business. So when I
Yeah.
started, Eck Wellness has been around for about a year and a half,
Okay.
and I started it. So just a few things. My bosses were completely supportive, which technically it could have been a conflict of interest for them,
Right.
but nope, they were right on board, and they said this is going to make you better for us too. I had a client who had been with me. Since I moved, I've been in California for a little over 4 years now, and they probably started with me about 2 months after I moved here. Okay. They've been with me the whole time. Their daughter's 8 now, so she was literally 4, literally a baby.
Wow.
And she's an incredible kid. But horses are where she shines, and it's where she's her best self, and it's the activity that she loves, and she has kind of a hard time socially, but her parents were just so supportive of her and so supportive of me and so supportive of what we were building together. Yeah. And when I kind of got this crazy idea, one of the things I said was, well, I only have one horse. I don't know how am I gonna provide for all the, now I have 30 of my own clients. So how am I gonna provide for, maybe at that time it was 12. Yeah. But still, that's too much for one horse to handle. And they said, find a horse, we'll buy it. And there's just been, I haven't had another horse. My horse that I showed when I was a kid, he lived on the East Coast with my mom. I wanted to move him out here because he's getting older, and I know our time is limited, and I know I'm not moving back there anytime soon, ever. When it was expensive to ship him out here, and it was dangerous. And same thing, my people showed up, and we did a raffle, and they bought tickets, and they showed up for it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So tell me, what were some of the challenges you faced in starting Eck Wellness, and what lessons have you learned since then in starting a business?
Yeah, so like I said, I was really prepared, so that was helpful, and I had a lot of really awesome mentors, which was helpful. My boss, both at Stanford and at my therapeutic riding barn, which is called BOK Ranch, both are incredible businesswomen, and I always laugh because it's been, the woman in the workplace is such a hot topic right now, and so exciting and inspiring for all of people like you and I. But I always laugh because I've never had a male boss. I have had so many strong, empowering females in my life, which I'm so lucky for. And then if you count in my mom, who was a working woman until I was about 4, and then stopped working for a decade. And then when my dad died, I was the oldest, and I was 19. So my sister was 15, and my brother was 11, I believe. And so she had to go back to work. So, and my boyfriend's mom, she is a real estate agent that absolutely kills it around here. So just having all these strong females in my life has definitely been a huge helpful asset. Yeah. So I don't want to sound naive and say that I haven't really had any struggles, but I have been extremely lucky. But it's because I have this safety net around me. My horses are in a barn where they are safe, where the person who takes care of them is there for me, is supporting me. I'm not on my own by any means. So I think maybe where the best advice would come in is to take those small steps, right? That you should create action, and you don't need to be perfect to create action, right? That perfect over progress problem a lot of female entrepreneurs have, because we like everything to be just as it is. But to make sure you're taking small steps and celebrating small steps, and not trying to just shoot for the top right away, right? Take those little steps, meet the right people, get that safety net built around you. So then as you start to slowly climb out of it, you're protected.
I think that,
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think that is such valuable advice. And I've heard that and it's so interesting to have you here because you're in a whole different industry. And so when I listen to you versus someone in the food and beverage industry or something, there's definitely the same advice applies. So it's really awesome to hear that. I love it.
Yeah, I kind of, what I've learned is that my passion for horses comes first. Yeah. My passion for actually teaching my content is big, and it's important to me, but it's important to me because of the overall picture. My dream is to have someone else that sits in that position one day, is to, hire other young people that are excited to get out there and teach in the way that I'm teaching. Because what I truly love most about building this business and getting to like wear this entrepreneur badge is the creation side, which I think also like makes sense with my art background. I love the building of it all. I love the branding and the marketing side. I love making spreadsheets and color coordinating. Like I love scheduling and content creation. The teaching is fun because of who I'm teaching. But I think that could be, one of my Stanford girls one day could, on my team, maybe wants to do this and could come work for me and build her own little community within my community, just as an example.
Yeah, so bringing up Stanford and how you're now an assistant coach for Stanford, I'm really interested because from my perspective, I imagine you've brought this whole new dimension about emphasizing the mental health and the well-being aspect of it. Is that true? Or like, what do you think you've brought to Stanford that wasn't there before?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I don't totally know. It's hard to speak about yourself, right? But I hope so. I have an incredible little team. So Stanford equestrian team is divided into 3 different divisions. And there's the hunt seat team, the dressage team, and the Western team. So I coach the Western team. And we are small but mighty. But over the past 3 years since I've been there, we've grown exponentially. And we've finally started having people wanting to come to Stanford for riding Western. Wow. So before it was like people would come and they'd try out for the hunt seat team and they'd say, you're just not really the right fit for this team. Try these other teams. And then they would come and we would make them into these, Western riders, which was awesome too. And we still do that. Some of our best riders come in that way. Yeah. But now there's people coming and they're excited about Stanford Western, which is really cool. Yeah. I have so much fun with them. Like we are definitely the team that travels to our meets, and we just have a lot of fun, right? We get to win, and then we get to go out and laugh over burritos. And then we, wake up the next day and do it all over again. And I love the camaraderie that they have with each other and that I get to like watch unfold. It's super nostalgic for me. Kind of like you said, a huge part of your identity is tied up in being an athlete, and coming off of that is emotional. Yeah. So, even though it's been quite a few years now since I graduated college, leaving that team behind was hard. That was a big piece of myself. And so now being a little bit removed from it and kind of I love like stepping back and watching them. My favorite thing ever is when, I shouldn't say this is my favorite thing ever, but because it's sad for the other teams. But when we go to a meet and, other schools are there and they're like getting ready and they all look like they're friends and everything's nice. But my girls are all like bumping to Lizzo and like doing each other's hair and like laughing and just like so happy. I'm like, who even cares about winning? Yeah. Like that's what's so cool. Like they just traveled here for 4 hours in a car together and they're not mad at each other. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, definitely telling of a strong chemistry, team chemistry and everything. Exactly. So that's great. I love that. So I want to hear advice you have, because I heard on a podcast that you talked about how you've dealt with hardship, and clearly you've dealt with hardship in your freshman year especially. So I want to know how you deal with hardship, and I think you mentioned how everyone should know that when they encounter something challenging, there is a way out, and there is going to be a light at the end of the tunnel almost, and you just have to get to that. So talk a little bit about that and what steps people can take when they're in this hole that they feel they can't get out of.
Totally. The thing is, when you're in it, you don't know you're in it, right? So I remember after my freshman year, I was so sick. I was like physically ill. I would get rashes from the sun, like things that never happened before. I would have allergies or like get sunburn and just like blister, like strange physical reactions because my body knew what my head was blocking out. And something that I'm super passionate about now, having come through the other side of at least some hardships, I'm sure there's more ahead, like with all of us, right? Something that a quote that I love from some of the veterans that I work with is, behind every mountain is another mountain. And all that means is that life is about climbing, right? Life is about overcoming. It's become really clear during this time with the pandemic that we all had this idea that things were supposed to or allowed to be easy. And that's just like not true. No one ever was like, oh, here's your life. Don't worry, it's just going to be a joyride, right? A lot of bad, sad, scary stuff happens. And it's how you're able to flip it on its head, right? And say, okay, this really sucks, but this is what I'm going to learn from it.
Yeah.
I tell my kids all the time that a bad ride during your lesson is 100 times more valuable than a good ride. And I'm sure this is also the same as soccer. You don't know what you're bad at until you find it, right? Yeah. Maybe I don't know soccer terms, but, you really, for riding, maybe you really are struggling with a maneuver, so you just avoid it. And then pressure hits and you can't avoid that thing anymore. Well, you have no clue how to handle it. When you're going through the hard stuff, that's you growing and getting better. So I think as long as you can keep that mindset that sometimes things have to get worse before they can get better. And we're always, if we look at challenges as learning opportunities, then they feel a lot more exciting and less scary. Now, that of course does not apply when people die or get sick. That stuff just sucks. And I think what's really important, and what I try to really teach, especially my kids, I teach mostly young girls, so this is really important for them. Women have so often been told to not show their feelings, right? We get told we're crazy or we're a bitch or sorry, I don't know if I can say that.
No, it's fine.
Or any other words, that people label girls when they show emotions. And what I try to tell my clients is cry. It's fine, but don't stop trying. You can, I had a rider and she was learning to lope, which is like third gear. So it's like first you walk, then you trot. That's like 1, 2, 1, 2. You can kind of envision it, right? Yeah. And then the next fastest one goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. And that feels really scary for when you're first learning it, because it's got this really big push from behind and it kind of tosses you out of the saddle if you're not strong enough. And this is a little kid. She's like 7. She was seeing all her friends doing it. She really wanted to try. And we got into the trot and I was walking her through it. I was explaining what she's going to do, what it's going to feel like, how we're going to get set up. We're just going to go for 3 strides, then say walk. Then we're going to do 4. And she started crying. And she stopped and she was red-faced and she was trying to hold it in. And I said, it's okay. You can cry. You can, if you're scared, scream. That's okay. Like, you can show me. That's fine. But don't stop. Keep trotting. Yeah. And when you're ready, press go. And it's, just trying to let them know that stuff isn't always good and it's okay to express that. I think, again, not to continue bringing it up, but the pandemic is a really good example. I've had a lot of parents contact me and say, my kid just is really anxious or really depressed. They don't want to do this work. It seems really boring to them, getting online and not seeing their friends. It's really hard. They don't even want to do horse work because it just seems they don't get to actually see their horse. And what I've advised all of those parents to do, and I'm not a parent, so who knows if this is the right answer, but my advice is to let that kid feel upset and to say, Mom, it really sucks that I can't see my horse. I love my horse and I really miss my horse and I want to cry about my horse. Okay, great. Let's do that. Now you got to work. Yeah. Or whatever. I really miss my friends. I really miss my teacher. I really miss school. I thought I hated school, but actually I love going to school and I was really comfortable in my routine. Yeah. Okay. It's not fair for all of us to just say, oh, I'm strong and I can get through this. That's why I really resonate and have branded my business around the idea of a cowgirl. So people sometimes ask me why I call everything, like one of my Instagram handles is the California Cowgirl, and I call my events Cowgirl Camp and the Cowgirl Challenge. And I have boy clients, and the boy clients are always like, their families are always like, oh, this isn't for him. It's for everyone, just in the same way that things would be branded cowboy and girls would participate.
Right.
It's not as normal. And the reason that I love the brand of the cowgirl is because the cowboy sort of has this reputation of being strong and rugged and rough and tough and not really talking much and getting things done and maybe being a little gruff. But the cowgirl isn't branded that way. In fact, she's not branded at all. So in my opinion, what a cowgirl is really a bunch of dualities, right? She's tough, but she also cries. She stands up for what she believes in, but she's also kind while she's doing it. She speaks her mind, but she also has a strong community and makes friends. She makes sure that her horse is, being, I hate the word obedient, but make sure that her horse is, doing what she's asking, but she also makes sure that her horse is getting what he's asking for or she's asking for. Yes. It's a lot more soft and hard and dirty and sparkly. And, we've got dirt on our cowboy boots, but rhinestones on our belts kind of a thing.
I love it. I love it so much. And these girls, girls and boys, I could already tell just by talking to you that they are so lucky to have you as a mentor, to just tell them that, look, it's okay to feel emotions, like they're meant to be felt, and it's okay to have it go by, and then it'll pass, and it's almost like a roller coaster always. So I think that's great.
Yeah, it's super cool, and I'm so lucky that these families have allowed me to be a part of their kids' lives.
Yeah.
I don't take it for granted at all that these families give me their most precious thing and say, it's fine, put it on a 2,000-pound animal.
Exactly.
I take that very seriously, in fact.
Definitely. Okay, Taylor, so we're going to end off with 2 questions. And so, the first one is, what is a passion or hobby that you have unrelated to your work? So you can't relate it to horses.
Well, I already mentioned a little bit that I love art.
Yeah.
So photography was really where I got most passionate about my art, and then I found video, and I love making video. And before that, it was just all things drawing and painting and collaging. And but newly, I'll share this. It'll make my boyfriend super happy. The last few weekends, he's been taking me mountain biking.
Ooh,
so that's super cool.
That is very cool. That's fun.
It's a passion yet, but
slowly getting there. That's fun though. That's awesome. And then, okay, as a last question, what is a fun or weird talent that you have that no one else really knows about? So I'm going to go first.
Yeah.
So what I do is I do blueberry throwing. So I'm going to give you a little demo.
Okay,
right,
don't
so here's a blueberry.
I'm too far to give you a Heimlich.
It's okay. I've practiced this for years. Okay, we'll see how this goes. There we go.
I mean, that's going to be hard to top. I have some definite weird habits or skills. I'm really good at song lyrics. I'm not going to sing for you, so don't ask. Okay. I'm I always know all the words to every song, so much that I really annoy people. They'll be singing and I'll be like, that was not the right.
Oh.
Get it right.
Yeah. Is it the type where you hear it once and you know it?
Pretty close.
Wow.
I don't know why. It's one of those useless skills, right? Where it's man, if I could remember literally anything else this well, I never know where my keys are, ever. I never know where my phone is, ever.
Oh,
but
that's great.
Every song lyric to Mbop by Hanson, you probably don't even know who Hanson is.
But I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I'm definitely not as good at with new songs. But my Stanford team keeps me young, keeps me cool.
I love it. That's so great. Well, Taylor, it's been so fun having you on this show, and I'm so excited for others to learn from you. So quickly, where can people reach you and just learn more about Eck Wellness, your Instagram, just anything?
Awesome. So I have 2 Instagram accounts. Both of them are a great way they connect to each other. My business account is Eck_wellness. Eck is EQ, which stands for equestrian, equine, and also emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
So just Eck_wellness. And then my personal account, which I love people to follow me on as well. It just has a few more boyfriend, girlfriend photos. That one is the California Cowgirl.
Cool.
And then my website, which again links to everything, is www.ecwellness.org. And that's got a lot of really cool opportunities. I don't know how many horseback riders will actually be watching this. Hopefully lots.
Yeah.
But I have a bunch of virtual content right now because of the COVID shutdowns. So I've got cowgirl competitions going on online. I've got an online course, and I have virtual coaching.
Amazing.
And I just have lots of, daily updates from the barn on my Instagram that are fun to watch.
So cool. I love it. Well, Taylor, thank you so much. It's been so much fun. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So great to meet you virtually.